Discover the incredible moment a poor cleaner jumped to save a millionaire's son from the drain. On a tempestuous afternoon in Willow Creek, thunder roared and heavy rain lashed the streets, drowning the small suburban town. Michael, a hard-working 22-year-old cleaner at the local high school, trudged home after another long shift, the cool droplets mingling with the weariness that clung to his shoulders. The cramped apartment he returned to was shared with his single mother and two younger siblings, each corner speaking volumes of their daily struggles. But Michael's heart was layered with fierce love for his family, pushing him toward hope despite their circumstances. With each step echoing on the slick pavement, he suddenly heard frantic, piercing screams that sliced through the storm's fury. Adrenaline rushed through him. Help! Somebody help! It was a child's voice, terrified and desperate. Racing toward the sound, Michael skidded to a stop at a storm drain, where he found young Ethan, the million-dollar smile of Willow Creek, clinging desperately to the grates, his face pallid and wide-eyed with fear as dark water swirled menacingly below. Michael's pulse quickened. Instinct kicked in. Without even a second to weigh the risk, he dove into the frigid, swirling waters. The icy grip of the flood wrapped around him, but he fought through it, fueled by an urgent need to save that boy. He reached Ethan, whose grasp tightened around Michael's arm, shaking with terror. "Hold on, I've got you," Michael shouted, pulling with all his might. As he emerged gasping, Ethan clung to him, and the thunderclaps were overshadowed by a crowd gathering, their faces animated with shock and awe. Whispers of admiration buzzed in the air. Thick with disbelief there stood the boy from the wrong side of the tracks, the cleaner saving the son of the powerful businessman. Michael's heart swelled despite the chaos. He had saved a life today, but the moment of glory quickly turned bittersweet. As cheers erupted from Ethan's family, murmurs of discontent began circulating among the townsfolk. "Who does he think he is?" one woman scoffed. "He's just a cleaner." The shining light of gratitude soon flickered under shadows of class envy. That moment of exhilaration fractured, and beneath the praise, skepticism brewed a complex brew of admiration mixed with deep-rooted prejudice about social standing. Soon, the media storm gathered, dragging Michael's family into a spotlight that blinded them to who he really was. Conversations at the dinner table grew heavy with tension. Jealousy, pride, miscommunication all wove a tapestry of discord among the once close-knit family. Michael's simple action of heroism felt like a double-edged sword slicing deeper into their lives. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the aftermath, at a lavish celebration thrown by Ethan's family, Michael felt the weight of every eyeball upon him, some filled with praise, others steeped in skepticism. It was then that a confrontation would erupt, one that would lay bare the raw truths each family member had buried deep within. As he stood on the brink of two diverging paths, a life of privilege and the ties of love that grounded him, Michael faced a kaleidoscope of emotions. The storm raged on outside, a backdrop to the turmoil brewing within him, as he questioned what true heroism truly meant. Where would he find his place in the world, and could he forge a bridge between the fractures of class and expectation? In that moment, as the thunder rolled, a question lingered in the air: could he truly reconcile his dreams with the values his family had instilled in him? Michael gazed out at the celebration, a plethora of colors and laughter swirling around him like the storm that had just passed. The lavish decorations, the clinking of glasses, and the soft melodies of a nearby string quartet felt glaringly out of place. It was a stark contrast to his world of endless chores and sacrifice. With Ethan's family reveling in their son's miraculous rescue, Michael couldn't shake the gnawing sensation in the pit of his stomach. "Michael!" A voice broke through the noise. It was Ethan's father, Mr. Archer, approaching with a beaming smile. You must be so proud. Our son is alive thanks to you. There was undeniable warmth in his words, a genuine appreciation. Yet, amid the gratitude, Michael sensed the unspoken boundary between them, the invisible walls built from wealth and status. "Thank you, sir," Michael replied, his voice steady despite the tremors of uncertainty. He felt like an imposter at a party where he didn't belong. "I was just doing what anyone would do." "No, not just anyone. You're a hero," Mr. Archer insisted, clapping Michael on the shoulder. The gesture was meant to inspire camaraderie, but it felt heavy, as if the pressure of expectation rested solely on him. As the night continued, whispers followed him like shadows, their voices carried on the breeze. How did a cleaner end up here? Is he really going to play the hero now? Each remark dug deeper, feeding the swirling storm of doubt in Michael's heart. His family's struggles felt magnified by this unexpected attention. Were they proud of him, or embarrassed? He stole glances at his mother, seated at a corner table, an aura of hurt and confusion settling on her face. She had spent years working tirelessly, and now her son was in the company of the very people who had made their lives difficult. He wanted to comfort her, but how could he reconcile that motherly love with the fear of losing himself in this newfound light? "Michael!" A small voice interrupted his spiraling thoughts. It was Ethan, bouncing up to him, energy palpable. "Can we take a picture together?" The innocence radiating from the boy melted some of the tension in Michael's heart. They posed together with beaming smiles, flashbulbs popping around them, capturing the moment. The crowd burst into supportive murmurs, affirming Michael's status as the local hero. But beneath that applause lay a growing conflict within him, an internal battle between wanting to embrace the admiration and fearing the isolation it could bring. "Let us not forget where we came from, okay?" he whispered to Ethan, feeling an urgency rising within him. "Of course. You're my hero," Ethan replied simply, eyes sparkling with admiration. Yet, Michael wondered how long that would last. Would that admiration change as the storms of class washed over their lives again? The night faded, but questions lingered in the air like the scent of damp earth after rain. Could he ever step into the shoes of something greater without losing sight of his roots? Just as he pondered those heavy matters, a figure broke through the crowd, swift and determined, Ethan's older sister, uncharacteristically direct. "Michael!" she called, urgency in her voice. "We need to talk. It's about what happened, and what happens next." An unexpected chill ran down his spine. He stepped toward her, caught up in a rush of hope and trepidation. What ultimatum awaited him on the other side of this newfound recognition? Just as the celebration swirled behind him, he felt the bend in the path ahead. What would he uncover within this moment of truth? Ethan's sister, Sarah, looked intensely at Michael, her brow furrowed with concern. The noise of the celebration faded momentarily, leaving only their shared heartbeat echoing in the space between them. "Can we step outside?" she asked, her voice suddenly urgent. His gut twisted with uncertainty, but he nodded. They weaved through the throng of guests, Sarah's grip on his arm tightening slightly as they reached the entrance. The cool night air washed over Michael like a refreshing wave, but it did little to calm the storm inside him. He turned to face her, and for a moment, they stood in silence, adorned by the glow of twinkling lights from within. "What is it?" he finally managed, trying to keep his voice steady. She inhaled deeply, as if steeling herself for what she was about to say. "You've seen the news, right? They're framing the whole thing as a rescue. You know how the media spins things. It's not just about Ethan, they want something more." Michael's heart sank. "What do you mean?" "I didn't do this for fame. I just did what I had to." "I know." Sarah shot back, exasperated yet compassionate. "But they're going to use your story. It's not just headlines, it could impact our family too. You're suddenly a part of something bigger, and that comes with expectations." He felt the weight of her words, pressing down on him like a lead blanket. "And what does that mean for me?" Where do I fit in this picture? It means you might be used to paint a narrative, she replied softly, her eyes searching his. One that doesn't include the reality of your life, your struggles. They want to portray you as someone you're not. Michael could see it now, the reality of his humble life clashing with the spectacle around them. But I want to be involved in things that matter. I want to help Ethan, and you can, but you need to be careful, she interrupted, her voice lower now, almost pleading. You're not just a cleaner anymore. You're a hero, and heroes come with their own baggage. Her words hung heavy in the air, the truth settling like dust. He wanted to argue back, to insist that it didn't change who he was, but he knew the world had a way of redefining people. Just then, laughing families and twinkling lights filled their sights again, a stark reminder of the chasm now between him and the life he'd planned. How could he remain loyal to his roots while stepping into a role that wasn't meant for people like him? Michael. A familiar voice broke his spiral of thoughts. It was Mr. Archer, approaching with an air of confidence that made Michael's stomach drop. There you are. Everyone's been looking for you. You simply must tell the story of that tragic day. Michael's heart raced. It felt like he was teetering on the edge of a precipice, with the crowd on one side and his family on the other. I don't think I can. Of course you can, Mr. Archer insisted, a hint of urgency in his tone. You have to do this for Ethan. For everyone to see what bravery truly looks like. As Mr. Archer spoke, his words echoed powerfully in Michael's mind. The weight of expectation was unbearable. Could he truly step into this role without losing everything he valued? The celebrations swirled once again behind him, laughter ringing out, but it all felt so distant now. How would he balance the accolades with reality? The laughter faded as uncertainty flooded his thoughts. Suddenly, Sarah leaned closer, whispering, Michael, you have to think this through. It could change everything. And as her words hung in the air, he realized the dance between admiration and truth had only just begun. What would he do when the next challenge arose? Michael's thoughts raced faster than his heart. The weight of Mr. Archer's expectation loomed large, its shadows deepening with every passing second. The celebration felt distant, like the cheerful laughter of strangers echoing from far away. It became harder to breathe, overwhelmed by the pressure of what was expected of him. Michael, please, Sarah urged, her voice barely above a whisper. It's not just your life at stake. He looked at her, ice coursing through his veins. I didn't sign up for this. I never wanted to be in the spotlight. The thought of sharing that day, the chaos, the fear sent chills down his spine. I'm just a cleaner. But you did something extraordinary, she countered, her disbelief morphed into concern. You saved Ethan. That's not just cleaning. It's a heroic act. Heroic? Michael scoffed, shaking his head vigorously. Heroic suggests choice, and I didn't have a choice that day. It was instinct survival, not valor. People want heroes, Michael, she pressed, tears shimmering in her eyes. And sometimes, we don't get to choose the roles we play. He turned away, facing the starlit sky. The night's beauty clashed with the turmoil inside him. A part of him understood Sarah's concern. Everything was changing too fast. I just want to help Ethan, he said, softer now, almost pleading. But I don't want to become a spectacle. As he stood there, staring into the dark, the silence seemed to deepen. For the first time, he truly felt the scrutiny that would come with his story, people judging, speculating, parsing out truths that were too harsh to bear. What if they didn't see the real heroism in saving Ethan? What if they twisted it into something it wasn't? Suddenly, laughter erupted from behind them, a group of guests bursting through the doors, champagne flutes in hand and carefree spirits lighting up the air. Their joy felt like shards of glass, piercing the soft calm of his thoughts. It made him ache for the simplicity of life before, when he was just Michael, a dedicated worker with modest dreams. Hey, Michael. Come join us. One of the guests called out, putting him on notice that the world inside was very much alive without him, but then Mr. Archer appeared again, the authoritative presence pulling him toward the crowd. You owe it to everyone, Michael. You owe it to yourself. You can inspire them. In that moment, Michael felt the pull of destiny tightening around him, like a noose. The energy of the celebration and the call of his own ordinary life fought for his attention. What would happen if he shared his story? Would he lose himself in the process? Anxiety knotted in his stomach. Think about it, Sarah urged. You could be a voice for those who feel silent, for those who think they can't make a difference. Or I could be just another headline, he said, shaking his head. Like a pawn in a game I never asked to join. It's up to you, she said quietly. As he wrestled with the internal battle, the world around him blurred. He could either step into the limelight or retreat into his quiet existence. But was that choice really his to make? Just then, the door swung open again, and a figure stepped forward. Ethan, a shadow of his usual self, but carrying an unexpected light in his eyes. Michael, he called, voice thick with emotion. Can I talk to you? In that moment, everything shifted. Michael felt the ball of tension in his chest loosen, curiosity replacing fear. What did Ethan need to say? And as Ethan closed in, Michael wondered if this conversation could redefine everything once more. What would Ethan reveal that could change their paths forever? Ethan took a deep breath, stepping closer to Michael. The laughter and chatter from inside the celebration faded into a dull hum, leaving only the weight of unspoken words between them. His hands fidgeted, embodying the unease that hung in the air. Michael, thank you, Ethan began, his voice steady yet vulnerable. I know this must feel overwhelming. But I needed to see you, to talk to you, about everything. Michael nodded slowly, his heart still racing, but a flicker of curiosity sparked in him. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, trying to shake off the anxiety that clung to him like a heavy coat. I don't know what you want from me, Ethan, he replied, a hint of trepidation in his tone. I didn't do it for glory or recognition. I was just there. Ethan's gaze sharpened, piercing through the darkness to find Michael's eyes. That's exactly why I'm here. You did something incredible, something most people will never have the courage to do. You acted when it mattered most. Michael felt his cheeks flush, a mixture of embarrassment and frustration. You call it courage, I call it instinct. It still doesn't change the fact that I'm just a cleaner. How could I possibly inspire anyone? Ethan shook his head, a slight smile tugging at the corners of his lips. But you have this gift, Michael. You saved my life. How can you not see that? You gave my family a second chance at happiness. Uncertainty washed over Michael. And now I'm expected to be some kind of figurehead? To stand there and tell my story like a live performance? Maybe, Ethan said. But it's not about fame or glory. It's about truth. People need to hear that ordinary individuals can do extraordinary things. The idea hung in the air, heavy and tantalizing. Michael's mind raced as he processed Ethan's words, battling with the very notion of being seen, being needed. But what if I fail? Then you fail, Ethan replied gently. But you won. You've already succeeded more than you realize. You already changed my life. Michael turned away, searching the night sky, the stars twinkling like tiny beacons. Could he really change anyone's life? What if the vulnerability of sharing his experience left him exposed and broken? Just then, the door swung wide open, another gust of celebration spilling into the night. Mr. Archer stood there, surveying the scene, a triumphant smile on his face. There you are, both of you. Come in, the spotlight is waiting. Ethan stepped closer to Michael, lowering his voice. If you walk away now, you'll never know the impact you could make. There are people out there who need to hear from you. What if I don't want to impact anyone? Michael retorted, the conflict clawing at him. What if I want to just go back to my life, my simple life? Ethan held his gaze, unwavering. But what if that simple life was meant to lead to something more? You could be the voice for those who feel powerless, like you once did. Michael felt a rush of anxiety at Ethan's sincerity, and a deeper longing stirred within him. Could he summon the courage to stand before the crowd? Suddenly, a thought struck him. What if, instead, I just help one person? Ethan grinned, hope sparkling in his eyes. Then that essay start. And maybe, just maybe, it'll lead to something greater. As the buzz of the party beckoned with its energy, Michael stood torn between fear and possibility. Something shifted within him, ignited by Ethan's unwavering faith. Could his story matter? Could one brave step lead to a tidal wave of change? With the crowd waiting, the moment felt palpable, almost electric. As anticipation hummed in the air, Michael took a deep breath. But was he ready to step into that light? The answer was far from clear, but he could sense the world shifting around him. Michael stood at the edge of the celebration, the sounds of joy and laughter fading in contrast to the storm inside him. He felt the weight of their gazes pressing down as people began to notice him lingering by the door. Eyes filled with expectation, curiosity. A knot tightened in his stomach. Michael. Mr. Archer's voice broke through his thoughts, enthusiasm spilling over. Come on, don't leave us hanging. Everyone wants to hear your story. Ethan stepped closer, his urgency apparent. They're waiting for you, but it's okay if you're scared. Just remember why you're here. You have a chance to make a difference. A voice in his mind whispered doubts, loud and clear. You're just a cleaner. What do you know about making a difference? It resonated, pushing against the spark of courage that Ethan had ignited. Just one person. Michael murmured, more to himself than to Ethan. Exactly. Ethan encouraged, his eyes lighting up. Think of the one person you'd want to help the most. A friend, a stranger. Anyone. Just imagine what you could say to them. He pictured a young boy, smaller than the others, sitting alone at the back of his classroom. He remembered the look in the boy's eyes filled with hope yet marked by loneliness. Could he be that voice for him? The thought startled him, warmed him, and ignited a flicker of determination. As he stood in that threshold, Michael felt as if he were in two worlds at once. One filled with the safety of obscurity, the other pulsating with the daunting possibility of being seen. Do you really believe I can make a difference? Michael asked Ethan, the vulnerability in his tone unmistakable. I know you can, Ethan replied, his confidence unwavering. Your story matters. You've already changed my life. Imagine what your words can do for others. The challenge hung between them, palpable and filled with electric tension. Michael took another deep breath, letting it flow through him, sweeping aside hesitation. Okay, I'll do it, he said suddenly, surprising even himself. But I'm not going on that stage just for them. I am doing this for those who feel invisible. Like me. Ethan smiled, a sense of pride washing over him. That's it. You're ready. With composed steps, Michael moved towards the door, feeling the eyes on him again, this time with a different weight, one of connection rather than judgment. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, the thrum of hope mixing with anxiety. As he entered the room, the celebration paused, conversations fading into an expectant silence. He could see the faces, a sea of smiling anticipation. For a moment, Michael hesitated. What if he stumbled? What if his voice cracked? The room seemed to hold its breath. He searched for Ethan's reassuring presence, and there he stood, nodding encouragingly. Was he ready to confront the unknown? He stepped into the light, feeling its warmth envelop him. The microphone felt foreign in his hand, but he held on tight. His heart raced as he realized this was it. The moment, with a deep breath, he began, I'm just a cleaner, but I'm here because I want to share a story of courage, of hope, but before he could finish, the lights flickered, and a sudden crash echoed outside. All heads turned in alarm, the joyous moment bursting into chaos as the sounds of sirens blared in the distance. Michael froze, the warmth of the spotlight dimming in an instant. Was this a sign? He felt a shift in the atmosphere, uncertainty creeping back in. What did it mean? What was about to happen next? Could he still find his way to make a difference amidst the confusion? Michael stood in shock, the once welcoming warmth of the spotlight now feeling like a prison. Sirens blared, cutting through the air with a frantic urgency that sent ripples of fear through the crowd. They were no longer looking at him, their heads turned as if he was suddenly invisible again. Ethan's voice broke through the chaos. "Stay focused, Michael. Don't lose your moment." But how could he focus when something was clearly wrong? Adrenaline surged through him, squeezing the fear from his chest as he searched the room, looking for the source of the disruption. Suddenly, the front doors burst open, and people rushed in, panic-stricken. A woman shouted, "They need help. An accident just happened." "What kind of accident?" Mr. Archer called, his voice rising above the commotion. "A child fell into a storm drain." The woman gasped, her face pale and ashen. "He's trapped." In that instant, Michael felt his heart leap. Images of the boy, the same lonely child he'd envisioned moments before, flashed through his mind. What if that's him? He thought, a cold knot tightening in his stomach. He didn't belong to this world of wealth and celebration, yet here he was, standing on the precipice of action. The doubt still buzzed in his head. What if he failed? What if he wasn't enough? Ethan grabbed his shoulder. "You can help. You have to help. We can't just stand here." Michael looked out over the frightened crowd, realizing that they needed someone to take charge. That they needed him. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Where is it?" he shouted over the noise, his voice finding strength. "It's just down the block, at the corner of Maple." A man pointed urgently, sweat dripping down his temple. Michael nodded, adrenaline propelling him into motion. He dashed through the doorway, the night air hitting his face like a splash of cold water. It cleared his mind, grounded him. With every step, the doubts dwindled. "Come on, Ethan," he yelled, glancing back. Ethan was right behind him, determination etched on his face. They raced down the street, the sirens growing louder with each stride. Michael's heart pumped faster, his instincts kicking in. He thought of that boy, alone and frightened. He remembered the loneliness he had felt. He couldn't let that happen again. As they reached the scene, flashing lights illuminated the chaos. Emergency workers swarmed around a drain, their shouts mingling with cries of worry. Michael fought his way to the front, eyes wide as he scanned the area. "Where is he?" Michael demanded. "Down there," a paramedic shouted, pointing. "We have to keep him calm until we can lift him out." Michael's heart sank as he peered into the darkness of the drain, the small figure barely visible, struggling. "Hold on," he shouted, trying to embody the strength he wanted to project. Without thinking twice, he dropped to his knees, peering closer. The child's frightened eyes locked onto his. "Hey. I'm Michael. I'm here with you, okay? You're going to be all right." The boy nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks, clearly terrified but clinging to the words of a stranger who was suddenly so much more than that. "Just keep talking to him," Ethan yelled, kneeling beside Michael. With one hand, Michael reached into the drain, feeling the damp walls, and with the other, he kept the boy engaged, trying to fill the space with calming words. "You're stronger than you know. Just breathe. We're going to get you out." As the tension built around them, the sounds of the world faded. Michael felt that spark of purpose ignite within him again. It wasn't just about sharing his story anymore, it was about saving this child's life. But just as they seemed to gain control, more chaos erupted. A loud crash echoed from behind them, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Michael's heart raced. What was happening? Now, he was sure of one thing: he had stepped into a moment that would change everything, both for him and for the boy clinging desperately to hope. What would he discover next? Was he ready to face more than just the weight of his own fears? The world felt like it was spinning, chaos entwined with fear. As Michael knelt there, his hand still reaching down toward the boy, the loud crash behind them sent shockwaves through the crowd. He turned to see the commotion, eyes scanning for the source. A heavy construction vehicle had rolled too close to the scene, its tires slipping on the wet pavement, shaking the ground like a rumble of thunder. Men in uniforms shouted urgently, trying to redirect the crowd away from the vehicle's path. Panic clutched at Michael's chest. He couldn't think of leaving the boy, but the wild panic around them grew thicker. "Stand back. We need to clear the area." A voice barked. "No. Don't pull away." Michael shouted, desperately keeping his attention fixed on the frightened child below. "I'm right here. Focus on my voice." Ethan joined him at the edge of the drain, anxiety etched across his face. "They need to pull him out now, Michael. This is getting worse." The child below whimpered, his small face awash in confusion and fear. "I'm scared," he called out, voice echoing eerily in the confined space. "I know, buddy. But I promise, we're going to get you out." Michael reassured him, his voice steady though his heart raced. With every second, the situation felt more critical. As a group of firefighters pushed closer, Michael caught a glimpse of the boy's hand, reaching out helplessly at the muddy edges of the drain. He couldn't let the child feel alone for another moment. "What's your name?" Michael asked, keeping his voice soft. "Danny," the boy sniffled, taking in shaky breaths. "Okay, Danny. I need you to listen closely. You're going to be okay, but you have to keep calm. Can you do that for me?" Michael felt a bond with him, both holding on to a shared hope. "I'll try," Danny's voice trembled, but there was a flicker of trust in his eyes. "Good. That's good, buddy," Michael replied, feeling a mix of pride and determination swell within him. He braced himself, feeling the cool earth rising from the drain against his knees. "Ethan, we need to move these people back. The kid's losing it, and they're going to trample over us." Ethan nodded and turned, raising his voice to cut through the din. "Everyone. We need space. Let the professionals do their job." He started waving hands, pushing gently but firmly against those pressing too close. Michael's focus narrowed back to Danny, who clung to his words as if they were a lifeline. "Just keep talking to me, okay? What's your favorite show? I bet it's something cool." The boy blinked, confusion fighting against fear. I like superheroes." "Superheroes? Me too. Who's your favorite one?" Michael pressed, keeping the boy grounded with a steady stream of conversation, but behind them, the scene escalated further. The construction vehicle, uneasy with its weight, creaked ominously as it shifted dangerously close to the edge of the street. Michael's heart sank, imagining the worst. "Clear the area." Someone shouted again, voices muffled as the sirens wailed louder, almost drowning out the words. Frustration sparked within him as the crowd surged again, some stepping forward, others stepping back in confusion. "Stop. Don't move." Michael yelled, his voice breaking through. Right then, the ground shook again, and Michael realized they couldn't delay any longer. "Ethan. We need to bring him up now. I can't let him go." But at that moment, the back tire of the vehicle began to slip and then it rolled forward, tilting dangerously. Michael's heart dropped. "Michael. Move." Ethan shouted, the panic in his voice slicing through the air. In that split second, Michael made a choice. He didn't know if he could save both of them, but he couldn't leave Danny to face this alone. With a deep breath, he prepared to dive forward into darkness, where hope and danger collided, what awaited him? Could he balance between saving the child and escaping the growing peril behind him? Michael lunged into the darkness, heart pounding as he reached for Danny. The muddy edges of the drain gripped him like a vice, but he found himself determined to defy the odds. He could see the boy's frightened eyes widen even more, reflecting the chaos above. "Hold on to me!" Michael shouted, stretching out his hand toward Danny. Time felt like it had become elastic, stretching and compressing as he fought to close that gap between fear and safety. Every sound wrapped around him: yelling, sirens, the heavy groan of the construction vehicle above. His focus remained on Danny, desperately coaxing courage from within the boy. "Just a little closer. You're doing great." Michael's voice pierced through the panic, trying to instill some courage where doubt threatened to take root. Danny's little body trembled, but he nodded, gripping Michael's fingers as tight as he could. The desperation in the situation pressed down on them like the weight of the world, but the boy's trust ignited a surge of determination in Michael. He felt hope blossom even amid the chaos, but then, a new terror gripped him. The vehicle's tire gave one last, ominous slip, sending shivers of dread through him. "Ethan! Hurry!" Michael called out, his heart racing, not just for himself, but for Danny. Ethan glanced back toward the vehicle, then back at Michael. The look in his eyes said it all: time was running out. "I'm coming!" he shouted back, scrambling to the edge of the drain. In the desperate seconds that followed, Michael could barely breathe. It was all or nothing. "Danny! I need you to pull yourself up to me, just like we practiced. You ready?" Danny nodded, still trembling, but determination glimmered in his young face. "Okay." With a surge of effort, he reached up, grasping Michael's wrist. Michael could feel the strength blooming in Danny, just as fear threatened to pull him back down. "Keep going. You're almost there." Ethan rushed forward, extending his arms as he lowered himself to grab Danny's other hand. Together, they would create a bridge. Michael could see the firefighters now, ready to lend a hand too. Just then, the construction vehicle lurched again. Panic spread in the crowd like wildfire. People screamed, and the push of bodies surged, adding to the chaos. But Michael didn't look away. Somehow, amidst the chaos above and darkness around them, hope ignited in him. "Ethan, hold him tight!" Michael yelled, bracing himself. "On 3 we lift." 1, 2. Just as they shouted 3. The ground shifted, and Michael felt the world teeter around him. With a final effort, all 3 of them pulled together, and in a heartbeat, Danny's small body broke free from the drain and soared upward. Breathless and exhausted, he was finally in Ethan's arms, their fingers gripping the boy tightly to his chest. "You did it, Danny!" Michael shouted, pride surging through him as he felt the boy start to relax. But relief was short-lived. Michael quickly scrambled back from the edge, retreating as the construction vehicle began to tilt dramatically. He felt a cold sweat trickle down his back. "Run! Everyone, move!" A voice boomed, slicing through the noise. The crowd surged as people raced, pushing away from the impending disaster. As the heavy vehicle fell, Michael's heart raced again. He swiveled around to see Ethan, Danny still cradled protectively in his arms, safety still a precious breath away. "Michael! Watch out!" Ethan's voice echoed, the urgency stark as he pushed through the throng. With every ounce of strength, Michael dove away, narrowly avoiding the debris that exploded behind him. It felt like slow motion, the world spinning into a blur of sound and impact. And just like that, the chaos quieted, leaving a shocking silence hanging in the air. But as Michael lay under the weight of his breath, wondering if they were truly safe, he caught a glimpse of Danny's face, wide eyes sparkling, filled with innocent confusion. "Why did you jump in?" Danny asked, his voice small and filled with wonder. Michael met his gaze, and for a moment, everything else faded. "Because you mattered." "Danny." But even as he spoke those words, a deeper question nagged at him: what would happen next? In the whirlwind of emotions and chaos, a new realization burst in his chest. Would this moment change everything for him? Suddenly, voices from the crowd began to rise again, murmuring feelings that felt thick in the air. Beneath the layer of fear, a new energy sparked. And with that curiosity bubbling in his soul, Michael wondered, would this incident just be another story or the catalyst for a transformation that could change their lives forever? As the dust settled, Michael found himself on the sidewalk, heart pounding, breath ragged. A crowd trickled around him, voices rising in a crescendo of shock and amazement. He felt disoriented, almost detached from his body, as if he had stepped into a movie. The adrenaline from the chaos gave way to a wave of emotion, tight and raw. Ethan held Danny in his arms, the little boy safe but still trembling. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the weight of the world fell on Michael's shoulders. He had leaped into the darkness, choosing to listen to instinct over fear, and, just like that, he had transformed into something more than a simple cleaner. "Michael," Ethan said, his voice breaking through the fog. You were incredible." Michael looked at Danny, who gazed at him with wide, grateful eyes filled with wonder. "You saved me," the boy exclaimed, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Yeah, buddy. But you were so brave," Michael replied, his voice strong even as his heart shook with emotion. In that instant, everything became clear. Heroism wasn't just about accolades or recognition, it was about connection, compassion, and the willingness to step into uncertainty for someone else's sake. The crowd surged forward, reporters snapping photos, eyes wide with admiration and disbelief. The murmurs shifted from shock to applause. "Who is this guy? He's a hero. What a courageous act." Each compliment settled around him, but Michael felt something deeper: the understanding that true heroism lay in the small, everyday choices. "Michael." Mr. Archer appeared out of the throng, pride evident in his voice. "I just heard what happened. Can we get you on camera? This is a moment that needs telling." "Not for me," Michael said, shaking his head. "I don't want to be a spectacle." "But think of how many people you could inspire," Mr. Archer urged, grabbing his shoulder with urgency. "You could tell them that bravery comes in all forms. It's not just about what you do, but who you are." For a split second, Michael hesitated. He could feel the weight of that moment. This was his chance to share a message that truly mattered. But the thought of being presented as something he wasn't brought a flutter of doubt. Ethan's hand gripped his arm. "Please, Michael. You've already made a difference. Don't you see? You have the power to reach people like you did for me." The boy's faith ignited something deep within him. Michael turned back to the camera, his heart racing with clarity. "All right," he breathed, stepping forward into the light. He breathed in deeply, centering himself. "I'm just a cleaner," he began, looking straight into the lens, feeling every heartbeat resonate in his chest. "But I jumped in that drain because every life matters. No one is less important because of where they come from." The crowd fell silent, hanging on to his words. The truth spilled out like a fresh canvas, raw and unfiltered. "This isn't about me being a hero, it's about all of us being willing to dive into the darkness for those who can't see the light." Tears pooled in his eyes as he spoke. He thought about his family, their sacrifices, those who felt invisible like he once did. "If I could face my fears for a child I barely knew, what's stopping us from reaching out to one another?" Cheers erupted from the crowd, a wave of unity washing over him. Conversations broke out, recognition dawning in those gathered. In that moment, Michael embraced the recognition he had feared earlier. This wasn't an act of vanity, it was a collective acknowledgement of humanity. He was more than just a cleaner, he was a bridge connecting hearts. As the applause soared higher, he felt buoyed by a sense of purpose, by the newfound strength in vulnerability. There was still fear, still uncertainty, but he had chosen to step forward rather than back away. Ethan's smile shone brighter than ever. "You did it, Michael." With tears lingering in his eyes, he turned to the boy, who had helped show him the way. "No, we did it, Ethan. Together." Michael took in the faces around him, some familiar, others strangers, all united in that moment. The chaos and uncertainty of life still played on like a relentless storm beyond the edges of their gathering. But within this space, there was hope. As Michael made his way back to his family, he realized the road ahead would be bumpy. There would be hurdles and misunderstandings, but the courage he tapped into today would ripple out to his family, his community, and beyond. He had found himself in the void, and now he would forge ahead not alone, but with a newfound sense of belonging. The journey wasn't just about him anymore, it was about all of them. United as a community, hearts tangled together, ready to tackle whatever storms lay ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.